Part 6. Here we go. Between the World and Me. This is actually going to encompass the last two sections you read. So all the way up to page 92 from about, page 61 or so. So what is going on in this section is the end of the section you read for Monday is him getting to the end of his history, of his understanding of how the world works, right? He's gone through the entire history, of black people in America from, 1518 through present day. And then the second half of this section focuses on him making this more personal and relevant to himself, bringing it up into a modern context, and then starting to push it towards the subject of his writing, which is his son, his 15-year-old son, who, if you remember way back in the beginning, had tears in his eyes and was really upset over the Michael Brown incident, how, the officers that shot and killed him could possibly not be charged with a crime. And so he's starting to bring this forward and show his son how this is all came to be and how these are, correct feelings to have, how this is an injustice, how it will continue to be an injustice. The big things in this section really come from when he's talking about, where is it? The death of Prince Jones, right? He talks about how just about a month earlier, he was pulled over himself by the same police force that shot and killed Prince Jones. And that when he was pulled over, all of these things that his father told him and all of these things that his future mother-in-law told him, you have to take care of my daughter, meaning take care of my family, right? Your family. The recalling the playground incident with his father, I can beat him or the police can beat him, right? All of these things coming back in his head and knowing at that moment that he has no control over what is going to happen, right? Human beings are comforted by the predictable, right? Knowing what is going to happen next, having a plan, knowing what is going to happen from moment to moment. In fact, a lot of us freak out the moment we are out of control or we don't know what's happening, right? So imagine being in a scenario where you are minding your own business, you're just going along with your life as possible, and suddenly you're thrust into not only a situation that you have no control over, a situation that you don't know what is going to happen, but it's also life or death, right? And I'm not exaggerating, and Coates isn't exaggerating at this point either. This happens all the time, right? In this country, we can't go a week without another report, not to mention all the ones that are never reported, right? So imagine just living in this constant fear, this constant, anguish over at any point, somebody with authority over me could just decide that it's time for me to die. For no reason, for absolutely no reason other than the fact that the color of his skin, that the color of this person's skin is darker than the people in power. And he goes out of his way to say that it's not individual police who are doing this. It is a system. It is an entire system that has been created and formed and nurtured since we started bringing black people over to serve as slaves in the 1500s, right? He talks about that in the history of the United States, from the Europeans setting foot on here, there is more time where black people were slaves than time when they were not, right? And this is something I want to focus on a little bit right now is, as we've been going through this semester, I've heard a lot of you talk about, oh, I can't do it anymore. I know we're terrible, but I don't really think I don't think those of us of European descent get it. I really don't think we get it at times, right? And I'm not calling out individuals who have said this to me. What I'm saying is it's easy for us to go, yeah, I know terrible things happened in the past, but we have to recognize that it is the past that shapes the present and will shape the future if we don't make a concerted effort to change, right? If you know that you have a problem with alcohol, right? In the past, you've drunk to excess, you've gotten blackout drunk, you drink for these reasons. That is going to inform why at this moment you have that drink in your hand and you are consuming it. And you know what? Unless you put it down right now and you change everything that you make the active choice to change, you're going to have that drink again next time any of these triggers happen. Now imagine you've been drinking for 250 years, right? And not only have you been drinking for 250 years, but you don't think that there's anything wrong with it, right? These systems you've put in place, no, nothing wrong with what I'm doing. And then suddenly you're told you have to change, right? Somebody steps in and takes all the alcohol out of your house, takes it out of the city you live in, right? That's not going to change your attitude. You're still going to believe that this is okay and this is what you need to do and you should be able to do this. Just because somebody else comes in and says, nope, not anymore, doesn't mean you have a change of heart. And yeah, it's been, 140, 150, 130 years since the Emancipation Proclamation. Doesn't mean attitudes have changed, right? Twice as much time was spent in slavery than not in slavery. And that's what it boils down to. Every system in place in America comes from this belief that people with lighter skin have superiority over people with dark skin. It's that simple. It is really that simple. And yet it's not simple because we've been playing by this for the 300, 400 years of our existence, not just as a country, but as, invaders on a continent. Anyway, I'm getting preachy right now. So what he is talking about in this entire section is history is against us. He's talking to his son. History is against us. And that explains all of the actions of our relatives in the past, right? And he talks about too, how, he talks about his wife whose father left, right? And his father left, and all of these things. And finally, at a point, she and he have a son. Ta-Nehisi Coates is not going anywhere, and that was almost taken away from this young boy without anybody being in control of that except for the police officer. And that's frightening, right? It's frightening to think that you could be walking home from school today, tomorrow, the next day, and somebody could just decide that they're going to run you over with their car. It's frightening to think that, you could be out at the mall with your friends or at Kaiser Station with your friends, and somebody could just decide that they don't like the way you look, so they're going to do something about it. It's frightening. It's how we live. It's fear. And this fear has been built by years and years and years of targeted aggression. Okay? So again, I'm getting preachy again. I will get off my horse right now. So, towards the end, when he gets into the shorter sections, right, he's talking about living in New York and not having a job. This is where he starts to get more hopeful again. He has created this network of people who are still there to support him, who still love him. It always comes back to that love, right? We survive as a people because of love, not because of fear. And we have to focus on the love, and we have to show love to each other all the time. All the time. Because that's what we would want, right? Do you ever wake up and like you're gonna go, let's say you're gonna go to get a coffee with your friends. Do you walk into that coffee shop going, man, I hope all these people hate me? That'd be great. If I got up and the barista was really rude to me, man, that would be awesome. No, nobody does that, right? And we don't expect like undying gratitude and love, but just common courtesy, right? The very basic amount of love you can show for a person by just being courteous and treating them as an individual person is what we need to do. And he talks about that too, and he warns his son about this, the trap of history. It's easy to dismiss what happened in the past. It's easy to dismiss slavery because we don't look at it on an individual basis. And even when we do, those are exceptions, right? And we like to think that we are evolved, that we're not like that anymore. But the mere fact is that this was a person who suffered. He says in this section, that person lived that nightmare every single day, and they had nothing they could do. There was nothing they could do to escape that, right? It's not like Kanye said and it was a choice. No. If you were captured, put on a slave ship, sent, right? You sure, you had a choice, work or die. Well, that's not really a choice, right? If I looked at you today and said, you have to write me a 12-page paper by tomorrow or I'm gonna kill you, that's not really a choice. I'm not giving you a choice. That is an unfair assumption to make. Now that I've said that, 12-page paper by tomorrow, or, out you go. Just kidding. Anyway, so this section, right, the end of the history lesson, making it more personal, really trying to draw us in with what he's saying when he's talking about Prince Jones, right? And now he is trying to push that out towards his son and explain that this is how the world works, and this is how we have to change it. These are the attitudes. This is what needs to be done. And that last little section on 9192, when he talks about taking his son to the daycare, the first day of preschool or whatever it was, and his son just dove in and started playing, right? That fear of, I don't want to screw up. What does he say? We don't know these folks. Be cool. I did not do this. I was growing, and if I could not name my anguish precisely, I still knew that there was nothing noble in it. But now I understand the gravity of what I was proposing. That a 4-year-old child be watchful, prudent, and shrewd, that I curtail your happiness, that you submit to a loss of time. And now when I measure this fear against the boldness that the masters of the galaxy, meaning light-skinned people, imparted to their own children, I am ashamed, right? He is ashamed that he has to, constantly teach his son to be vigilant, right? Always be wary, always have that dual consciousness, right? Always have that. He's ashamed by it because I don't have to teach my son to do that. I don't have to teach my son to be worried about what other people are going to think of him. If we're at the park and there are kids playing and he wants to go play, I say, go, have fun. Quit bothering me. Go. Just go. I don't have to sit there and be like, oh, hey, you don't know them. Come on, man. Right? I just look at him and say, you're a kid. Go play. Same thing with my daughter. You're a kid. Go play. Have fun. This is what you should be doing. This is how you learn to be a human being. And then at 4 years old, he has to teach his son these lessons that are beyond what a kid is capable of. And it's not fair and it's not right. And he says that. He's ashamed that he has to do this, that he has this need to do this. And someone like me doesn't. And I don't think that's fair either. All right. So, that's it. I will see you all real soon, maybe. We'll see.